How do we thrive in a fast-paced, ever-changing world? We innovate. We must innovate. Now, innovation happens in big ways, the kind that I just spoke about because they have mass change, mass impact, mass appeal. But innovation happens daily, and sometimes in a very stealth fashion. Sometimes producing a widget, sometimes solving a problem, sometimes creating an efficiency, sometimes enhancing an experience. Now, innovation is at the heart of PDS. And I know it's at the core of so many of you as well. In fact, today, some of you are going to be joining us here on stage, some respected leaders sharing your innovation stories. And I know Asif is looking forward to hosting a lively dialogue with them here shortly. But first, Asif's going to be on hand to provide an update on PDS and how our commitment to innovation is helping fuel our collective partnerships. So anybody who knows Asif knows that innovation is at this man's soul, and it has been throughout his entire career. With an impeccable resume at his back, from successful startups to guiding Fortune 500 companies, Asif now lends his leadership, intelligence, and innovative mindset to help raise the posture of PDS, and I'm delighted he's going to be welcoming you here this morning. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to the CEO and President of PDS, Dr. Asif Naseem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. How about John Miller, ladies and gentlemen? Now, after his performance from yesterday, last night I was talking with him, and we decided we're going to change his role and bottle up what he did yesterday and turn that into a PDS offering, and we'll call it John as a Service. You know, we're going to talk about innovation today, and I'm going to be shortly joined by a powerful panel of experts across the industry. But before then, I want to share a very quick personal anecdote with you. My wife is a computer scientist, and she has worked at Bell Laboratories for a number of years since she graduated from school. And she's working on translational research in Bell Labs. Our two boys, 13 and 15, both are pretty enamored with their mother. Me being an engineer is the minority in the house. And so often our dinner time conversations end with one of the boys saying, "Oh, Dad, you're just an engineer, you don't get it." So recently, at a dinner time conversation, I mentioned to them that I'll be participating in a discussion on innovation at our conference. And so one of the boys says, "What do engineers know about innovation?" So I decided to take them to task, and I said, "All right, for the next couple of days, you're going to learn something about science and engineering. Go Google it, read Wikipedia, and I want to know what you learned." Much to my surprise, they complied. And a couple of nights later, my younger one comes to me and says, "Dad, thank you very much for asking that question. I learned something new. I read, and here's what I found out." So he hands me this quote from Ted von Karman, founder of JPL. I think he's also known as the father of supersonic flight. That scientists study the world as it is. Engineers create the world that has never been. So that's pretty good, right? I mean, a 13-year-old he found, and he was thankful. And I'm feeling pretty good about myself that I caused my son to learn something. My oldest son, sitting quietly, I turned to him and he says, he had two pictures on his smartphone. And this is the first one he shows me. He goes, "This is science." Now, if those of you who are squinting, this is a pair of forks balanced on the rim of a glass with a coin. So he says, "Dad, this is science, and this is engineering." Now, we at PDS, we are an engineering company. We're mighty proud of it, and you won't find any duct tape in any of our locations. Right? Now, as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about innovation, and I'm really delighted to have industry experts joining us shortly, but I want to take about 20 minutes or so to set the context for that discussion, and I will quickly summarize some of the innovation that we are experiencing in the three markets that PDS serves. So we serve our clients in corporate environment, in public, in the public domain, public sector, as well as healthcare. So I'll focus on some of the IT innovations that are going on generally in those areas before we invite the panels over. So when we look at the enterprise industry, for the last 30 years, they've spent trillions of dollars building sophisticated transaction systems to build their global and domestic network business models. And these systems have served them well, providing critical functions like global supply chain management, enterprise resource planning, payments of all sorts, whether they're accounts receivable, accounts payable, inventory control, and management. So far, these systems have served these enterprises well, but with the recent emergence of consumer-driven social collaboration networks are actually challenging their business model and forcing the enterprise to relook at the role of IT in their organization. See what IT should do. And at the center of this shift in the role of IT is this fundamental shift from vertically organized, vertically integrated business model and centralized business model to a decentralized and a horizontal business model. Now, this shift in IT role demands increased connectivity, increased connection, more collaboration, more coordination within the enterprise and outside the enterprise. And this IT-led innovation is actually resulting in several new technologies, including scale-free networks, Internet of Things, one of our favorite acronym, and most recently the blockchain technologies, and of course, artificial intelligence and machine learning and all the technologies that go with it are being innovated, and they are IT-led. Let me touch upon a couple of these innovations. So blockchain. It's a global public ledger that's capable of collecting and verifying a large number of transactions that are location independent. There are unique characteristics of blockchain that make it decentralized, it's resistant to fraud, it's transparent, and perhaps most importantly, it leaves a verifiable audit trail. That makes it very compelling underlying technology to many solutions, many industries. Now, think what you might of the cryptocurrencies, but blockchain has the ability to transform applications in a variety of markets. For example, in healthcare, the data collaboration among service providers could actually significantly improve the probability of accurate diagnostics, improve the healthcare outcomes, and has the ability to help service providers improve the cost effectiveness of their care. In education, for example, the academic credentials and professional certifications, by definition, have to be universally recognizable and verifiable. Today, in all contexts, whether those schools or universities, verifying academic credentials is a tedious manual process, often requiring a lot of paperwork and case-by-case checking. Blockchain has the ability to streamline that process. As a matter of fact, MIT Media Lab recently produced and introduced an open software platform called BlockCert that actually streamlined the verification of professional credentials as well as student records. IoT, or IoRT, sometimes it's called, the Internet of Real Things. One of the fundamental challenges within IoT is that the architecture, even in the federated topologies, is very hierarchical. So sending, especially for data-intensive applications, sending all of that data all the way up to the top node in the cloud can actually clog the network. So blockchain actually provides the ability to have thousands of devices and sensors autonomously, without any central control, interact, communicate, and transact with each other. As a matter of fact, there's a consensus that's building around a concept called ADEP, Autonomous Decentralized Peer-to-Peer Telemetry. And many organizations are actually using the BlockCert and ADEP to actually innovate some of their applications. Now, IoT, blockchain is still probably several years away before it starts to impact applications in other than banking and finance. But IoT is gaining traction. It's very specific to the domain where it gets implemented. But one of the things that's happening is that's making IoT a lot more practical is the fact that things are now getting intelligent. They have the ability to not only collect information about themselves, but also filter it, and then send it over to an aggregator, which in themselves are getting more intelligent. So they're not only able to get information and filter it, but also curate it and create local insights as close as possible to the data source before sending those insights up the chain in the nervous system, the internet. So the intelligence is actually moving from the network to the edge, and that is helping IoT become a real application for a variety of markets. Now, we work with a lot of innovators and industry leaders. Here's one of the leaders in global, a global leader in the appliances is innovating using IoT.
One of the innovations we're starting here within Sub-Zero is our connected appliance initiative. So we're trying to find a really great use for expanding our customer experience for owners to be able to get information on their appliances, maybe start to do some consumables, e-commerce. It is something that a lot of folks are asking for as the IoT of things happens, right? So it's getting information, being alerted. So a lot of that stuff is kind of our lead innovations right now within the space. One of the things we look at from a technology standpoint is how do we make that process simpler to digest, simpler to process through. We have a lot of information, and so what do we do with that information? So it's a lot of predictive analysis, maybe trying to understand where we can better improve our products, maybe if a certain piece of hardware is going within a system and understanding those long-term ideas of where do we need to take the business or where do we need to take our units and understanding that. So from a tech standpoint, we're always looking to see how we can better improve and make that process a little bit more automated, user-friendly, as opposed to a lot of the manual processes that happen right now. One of the things we look at for PDS as one of our trusted partners is to help innovate and help us understand, where the market is going, maybe some expertise in certain fields like data scientists or data analytics, and those areas that we're kind of short right now as an industry and certainly within Sub-Zero, and come to us ahead of the curve so that we can get there faster for our customers and for our business units also.
The next segment that we serve at PDS is the public sector, and specifically in education. And we're seeing three key threats to innovation in that sector. One is this personalized learning, sometimes also known as the adaptive learning, and it has to do with the use of information technology and analytics on a history of a student's record to actually create a one-on-one instruction for the students. The second one is STEM is becoming STEAM now with the addition of arts to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so the idea there is we need to invoke learning by doing. So understanding is a higher level of education than knowledge. So by inserting arts into STEM, we offer an opportunity of design thinking and learning thinking where students can actually learn by doing as opposed to just consuming content. And thirdly, the digital equity, actually more appropriately, digital inequity, which is making sure that the rural school districts in the US have the same access to online resources that the urban districts do. As we look at a little bit more detail in that, in the last 20 years, since the early 2001, when some legislation was actually introduced to accelerate learning in schools, No Child Left Behind in the fall, and the subsequent legislation, the academic leaders and legislators have been working to include coding, computer programming as a literacy. There's a lot of evidence that computer programming invokes critical thinking and authentic learning. And you combine that with creative maker spaces, the students have the ability to actually learn by doing things as opposed to just consuming content. Now, learning is a social construct fundamentally. So by providing group projects and peer-to-peer collaboration abilities, we can actually enhance student engagement and help them achieve. As the academic leaders focus on student-centered pedagogies, the learning spaces are changing. The classroom is changing. So the idea is to customize and personalize the environment where students can learn. IT is playing a role in all of those stages by, at one end, by simply providing access to online resources, but in maker spaces, providing access to the latest technologies that are available, whether that's artificial intelligence, virtual reality, robotics, and all sorts of other technologies and applications that are available. And thanks to public-private cooperation, a lot is happening in that area, but still, there's a lot of stuff that still remains to be done. To date, there's over 74,000 schools that have broadband connectivity. Over 2.5 million teachers are connected. Almost 40 million students can actually have access to at least 100 kilobits per second pipe. There are problems, though. There's 10,000 schools that are still don't have any connection. And there's only less than a quarter of the school districts have a megabits per second or more. And in this day and age, there's only so much you can do with 100 kilobits a second. So this is an area where a lot of innovation needs to occur. And by the way, there's about 6.5 million students that still have no connection in the US. Now, as we work with a lot of the school districts, at least in our area, here's one of the leaders in the education IT is doing about it.
One of the pieces that we've tried to do is really, one is make technology equitable and ubiquitous within our schools. Really, as the IT department, we try to get out of the teacher's way, make sure that everything is functioning, whether it's infrastructure or down the device, so that technology doesn't become an event every time it's used. It's just something that's naturally ingrained in instruction every day. Something else that we're really trying to use to innovate technology and instruction is our innovation grants. And teachers can apply for X amount of dollars to purchase things from iPads to other small ancillary equipment that wouldn't be purchased through the IT department. I think, challenge is always budget. That's always a realistic challenge for school districts. I would like to spend a lot of money. However, I have to stay within the constraints of our budget. Thankfully, we have a very supportive community, very supportive school board, and then opportunities. I think one of the big things about this school district I find is that we have a very open staff, very open administration to trying new things, to working with technology. I think technology partners, I think they've done a really good job, in particular PDS, really just listening to our needs. Anything from whether it's budget or specific devices or something that might be coming down the line. We're very different than healthcare or private business. K-12 education is very unique because you have a lot of stakeholders involved, so things might not necessarily move as fast. So I think that the piece where vendors would just really listen to our needs and try to help us out in that way.
The third industry that we serve at PDS is healthcare. As you know, healthcare is one of the largest employer in the country and one of the largest spender in the US. As a matter of fact, last year in 2016, healthcare spent $3.4 trillion, which is almost a sixth of US economy. And that trend is expected to continue over the years. And by many accounts, it will actually exceed the GDP growth. So current estimates put it, the spending in 2025 to be close to $5.5 trillion. And it's the largest employer in the country, employing over 16 million people. So it's a very important part of our economy. In the last 2 decades, a lot has been happening in this industry. So on the system side, a lot of the hospitals and clinics used to offer multiple service lines within the hospitals. That is consolidating, and we're moving towards an integrated delivery network system where many of these hospitals, either through ownership or through partnerships, are being integrated into networks that actually control the central as well as the local healthcare systems. That integration is expected to continue and bring in other entities like primary care, like long-term care, like pharmacies and labs and the like, to create an entire integrated ecosystem. Now, on the operating model side, we're moving away from volume-based fee-for-service to full risk-based contracts where the service providers are actually accountable for population health, and they're accountable for providing quality of care, cost, and the actual patient outcomes. And IT is playing a significant role in that evolution. We used to provide ancillary systems to the hospitals. Now, information technology is actually a strategic partner of these ecosystems, providing innovations like connected care, patient engagement, and the use of artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, by helping physicians improve their decision-making. There's a lot of work that needs to get done in this area, and there are lots of issues, and we have several leaders working in this industry addressing those issues. There's a tenth of the hospitals that are able to actually transfer healthcare records electronically between a system and another system. Imagine with all of the electronic health record implementations that have been done across the country, this is still an issue. Almost half of the referrals that occur through faxes, though actually never result in any customer appointments with the physicians. You ask physicians what their biggest issue is, almost half of them will tell you fatigue and burnout. And they tell you that they didn't go to college for administrivia. They went to college to learn how to take care of patients, but they're spending almost half, if not more, of their time doing administrivia. And here's the kicker. Physicians, just over a quarter of their work hours actually spend time face-to-face consulting with patients. And the rest of the time, they're actually doing the administrivia, searching records in EHRs, searching through morass of faxes, looking for pertinent information in lab results and test reports. That's what they're doing. This needs to get addressed. We work with a lot of industry leaders, talk about these issues. How can information technology help of these issues? Here's one of the healthcare leader had to say recently.
So the kind of innovation that we're leading here is at a national level, actually. We have 3 major initiatives underway. The first is around trying to develop a universal patient ID, because unlike other industry verticals, the provider healthcare space doesn't have a universal consumer identifier. Secondly, we're working on an application that we're building for the consumer. As we develop our thinking and talk to our consumers, the contemporary request is for just give me an app for that. And so we're working with a number of technology vendors around the development of an application suite that helps patients do things like find a doctor, find the price of a certain procedure, help me pay my bills, help me understand my copay, help me manage my mother because she has dementia, things like that. The third aspect of what we're up to at a national level is we're developing something called a capability framework. These frameworks tend to describe what a business does, which allows us in the world of IT and consulting to layer on top of that, how do you do it? And so when you have layers of this is what we need in terms of process, infrastructure, applications, and data, we can start seeing where the gaps are in terms of business value and where the overlaps are in terms of operating efficiency opportunities. The PDS is critical in helping us in this mission in that PDS doesn't directly drive any of our strategic intent, but by helping us in the back end, they enable us to focus on that strategic intent. So PDS helps us with efficiency, for example. They help us manage our distributed environment more effectively and cost effectively. They also help us with growth. So as we make a merger or an acquisition, it's much faster for us to absorb that entity and bring resources to that entity through PDS than it would be for us to do it ourselves.
As Alistair said, at PDS, our mission is to enable innovations in all of the sectors that we serve. And the way we do that is, our heritage has been an information technology products and service provider, and we're building on that heritage. And we are on this continuous journey from being a technology provider to a solution provider by adding to products and services that we provide some innovative services. And we have a list of innovative services. We have a state-of-the-art service desk. We have the ability to provide professional services at a variety of levels. So if you have a project that you have to roll out, we can not only provide technology and services, we can actually have our personnel help you roll those projects out as well. And we're investing in managed services. In addition to that, we are focusing on innovation within our own company by building domain-specific applications that do more of what we already do for our customers. So we actually have recently, I think last year I mentioned to you, we've created an innovation center in Cupertino where we are building software applications that actually build on what we already do for our customers. Now, we have been in business for over 30 years. And during that time, we have not only survived, we have thrived. And a singular reason for that longevity and success has been reinvention of the company and our relentless focus on serving our customers and clients. We believe we have to be continuous students of your goals and aspirations so we can enable you when you innovate and transform your business models. Here are some of the key takeaways I'd like for you to take, and this is our segue into our panel discussion, is that information technology is actually central driver of any innovation. And setting up collaborative networks, whether that's providing customer, consumer, patient engagement, or networks that actually provide collaboration among the employees within an enterprise and outside the enterprise, that provides access to people and resources anywhere, anytime, using any device. Critical success factor. We all know about artificial intelligence, the role artificial intelligence and the related technologies are playing in the innovation. One of the key takeaways is that customers look to us to solve their problem. They seldom say, we need this product. They talk to us about, here's my problem, how can you solve this? So our development and our offering have to be application specific. And then finally, in order to accelerate this innovation, we must continue to drive public and private cooperation. Thank you so very much.